So now, someone taught us Plato's Cave, right? All right, come on now. You went to Rhodes. Where did they get Plato's Cave from?
I know it's out of the Republic.
It's what?
I know it's an allegory in the Republic.
Okay, no problem. But you talking about in the Greek Republic?
This was Plato in Greece.
Okay, Plato. Well, okay, how did they find it?
The story you made.
Yes, Plato. A story about Plato. They found it some kind of way. Who found it? Who found it? That's right. Come on, somebody tell me. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell these children not to read Plato's Cave. I want them to read it. But I also want them to know that most of what you were taught in school about what Aristotle and Plato and all these folks actually made up and created this whole modern thing, it's a lie. Now, how do I know that it's a lie?
How do you know that it's a lie?
I bothered to do what Jim James was asking everybody in this room to do. I bothered to try to examine this well enough to know that they didn't have typewriters. This is what Jim James was suggesting. They didn't have typewriters at the time of Aristotle and Plato. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
They didn't have. How many works are they giving Aristotle credit for?
A lot.
They didn't have computers. They didn't have typewriters, right? Now, when you sit down and you actually examine how much they're giving him credit for, how long would it have taken him to handwrite that out?
A few lifetimes.
A few lifetimes. Well, how is it possible then, if that's the case? Now, in other words, there are ways that you can actually ask yourself questions and you can determine for yourself what something is actually saying to you. Where did the information, when did the information first come into existence in Western academia?
About 300 BC.
300 BC. I don't even know what. See, 300 BC, I will bet you any of the folks that were teaching in school at Harvard weren't around 300 BC. So now they were supposed to have gotten that information from where? About 300 BC.
Are you suggesting that verse showed up at
I'm saying just like Johann Blumenbach made this nonsense up, most of what we believe that was taught to us was just made up. How do I know it was made up?
How do you know?
I read Shakespeare. And if you read Shakespeare, he tells us, he gives us the skinny on how the foundation of what you call Western civilization came into play, came into being, what it was. And he told us exactly. Give me Hamlet. Someone, come on. Carolyn, where are you? Give me Hamlet.
Be or not to be?
Keep going.
That is the question.
Keep going.
Whether it is nobler.
There you go, Catherine. To something in the slings and the arrows.
What about him?
Suffer the slings and arrows. Oh,
Was it sound and fury signifying what?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, signifying nothing. Something.
If you really listen to what he was saying, because you learned to read,
Hold.
he sent us a message.
So you telling me that William Faulkner plagiarized Shakespeare?
Not only am I telling you that William Faulkner plagiarized Shakespeare, I'm telling you that plagiarism has been universal all the way down through this, from the time they first started creating Western academia. They were copying something that somebody else had said.
But I have to take to the class why I said that is because Faulkner's most famous novel is The Sound and the Fury.
What time is it?
And it's
Are you good? It's 7 o'clock.
There's a line in it that says full of something.
But the point that we really want to get to is your professors never bothered to check anything that they were pounding into you. So you was just supposed to. So when they came to you and they said, now you tell me if I'm wrong about this. I know when I was sitting in the classroom, the professor wanted me to learn all about what's the language, Indo-European languages. Have you ever bothered to go and learn about Indo-European languages? Well, if you go and you learn about Indo-European languages, when you read a real book about it, one of the first things it says, matter of fact, look up Indo-European language, Indo-European. That's one of the first things that it says. It says what? A hypothetical what?
Theory.
Language group that actually was created in order to justify the beliefs about how something came into existence. That's what it will tell you in all of those books. It says a hypothetical. No one can find it? No one has it?
Yes, I have it.
What? Tell them, read it loudly.
Indo-European is designating or of a family of languages that includes most of those spoken in Europe and many of those spoken in southwestern Asia and India.
So you don't have a hypothetical language group there?
Yes, sir. It says the Indo-European family of languages.
It doesn't have anything about hypotheticals.
It just says.
If you keep reading and you keep looking for Indo-European, you will come across a hypothetical group of languages.
Unrecorded language.
Well, read it to us loudly. So give her, come here, get Zaire, bring that to her, so she doesn't have. Right here, here, baby, right in front of you.
Indo-European languages, the most important linguistic family of the globe, comprising the chief languages of Europe together with the Indo-Iranian and other Asiatic tongues. In the 19th century, comparative and historical study of these languages, called also Indo-Germanic or Aryan, established their descent from a common ancestor spoken in the late Stone Age, probably in Eastern Europe, by a people or group of peoples of unknown, perhaps mixed race.
Unknown, probably, but
Mixed race, but what is race?
it said in the Stone Age, race didn't exist. It gets real weird. When you really learn to read, you will find all kinds of things that you've never looked at, you've never seen before. So he was asking me about the construct. Well, that's how this thing is constructed. You are supposed to go to class. If I tell you to study the Iranian Persian language group, and I tell you that that's a Indo-European or a Aryan language, and you read that, and you're supposed to now check mark that on the test, and that's supposed to mean that you know something. You've done no comparatives. What did the people in India say about all of this? What did the people in China say about all of this? The people in China and the people in India had a whole nother map of the place, rather than this map that we're looking at, the one that was created much later. They had something else. How did they get it? Did they go anywhere and matter of fact, wait a minute. It tells me that I think Johann Blumenbach, right? Doesn't it tell me that he was an anthropologist?
Never left Germany.
How can you be an anthropologist, but you never leave outside of the borders that you were born in? Well, how's that anthropology?
Was anthropology a term then?
Well, now here's the thing. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I don't know. But that's a good question to ask, and then go and do the research. Now, what you have to do is, you have to figure out when anthropo came into existence. When did they start using the term anthropo? Is your dictionary telling us? What is anthropo, baby? What grade are you in, woman? How can you be in the 9th grade and you don't know what anthropo is? Some ain't right. Where you going to school?
I was in Bahia.
Well, you got to start with me, all right? Because I need you to know what anthropo is. So that means if she won't let you look in her dictionary, you better go find a dictionary around here somewhere.
1800.
What is it?
Man, animal, like man in the image of an animal or something.
No, anthropo is just man.
Man, okay.
That's it.
Oh,
What?
anthropomorphic.
Anthropo is just man.
It shows it, from 1800, and it was at its highest use, they show, in, the early 1900s.
Okay, good. So now what we're going to find is that this guy, what's his name, the one you mentioned, that told us about what the hieroglyphics was saying? Sir E. Wallace Budge. When did he say all of this stuff? When did he make all this stuff up? When? You mean we've been running around here repeating nonsense that the teacher told us there was fact because E. Wallace Budge said it. But we don't know when he made it up?
1950s?
Huh?
50s?
1950s. No. 1850s? Did you say 1850s? No. E. Wallace Budge was, who was he? Who was he? Come on now, you could, the African Egyptians, you're supposed to know who E. Wallace Budge was.
He was an Egyptologist.
Egyptologist, good. So now, he gave us translations of the hieroglyphics. Did we check to see if he knew what he was talking about? Ain't that something? We just, whatever the professor told us, we believed it, right? They told us to read this book, and whatever's in the book, we believed it. I am saying to you that most of what was in that book, they just made it up. They did the same thing Shakespeare did. They just made it up. Then who is now making everything up? You remember the movie Shaka? Shaka. Shaka Zulu. Good. How do they spell Shaka?
S-H-A-K.
With a K.
S-H-A? Well, how does Shaka spell her name? C. So you mean the C and the S are interchangeable. But how do we know that it probably was S? How do we know? Because we were watching a Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby movie, and in the movie the preacher had the fez on, and on the front of the fez it said Shaka. Don't y'all remember the movie?
What's that in broken Creek?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
There it is. There it is. And it was right there written, but we didn't read that. We didn't see it. Well, how is it that something can be in your brain to such a degree that it causes you not to be able to see things?